And we're live. It is Thursday, August the 28th, the year of our Lord 2025. It is 7:59 a.m. We are it just turned to 8. I hit the go live button uh by accident a few seconds early. And sometimes that happens because we are uh you know, not professionally produced, as one might say. Um, Look, folks, the sun is shining. The birds are chirping. It's going to be a great frickin' day. And you are watching Dog Shirt TV. And it is a bleeding ulcer of a revolution in morning television. And one of the revolutionary features is that sometimes the show starts a minute early because, you know, I accidentally hit a button on my mouse that I didn't mean to hit. And we all hope that it isn't a incipient sign of a tremor in my finger that, is in encroaching Parkinson's. We suspect it's not, but you never know, and so we keep a watchful eye on these things. And another one of the revolutionary features is that sometimes I am unsure whether there is anybody, any co-hosts joining today, and so I kind of skip the monologue because the entire show may be a monologue. You never know these things. Um, uh, but look, it is, one of those days we're not allowed to have fun anymore. We are allowed to have kind of open phones. Join in if you have something you want to talk about. And I am going to tell you we may be joined by Nastia at some point in the hour. Uh, just wanted to let you all know she and her family are fine from the overnight attack. However, the attack did cause significant damage at the house that she lived in until the other day. She just moved, and she is currently uh, at her former apartment, cleaning out stuff that they had not yet moved yet, and there is broken glass everywhere, and the neighborhood is in bad shape from a dual missile strike last night. So she may be joining us from the scene or may not, but she is fine. And has been texting me outrageous pictures of the scene this morning. Um, I don't know what Holly's plans are, and so I am just assuming that I'm here by myself, and that means that this is a good time for somebody to show up and propose a topic, because otherwise I'm just going to keep blathering on, and that is boring. Uh, and here is Carol G to the rescue.
Well,
Carol,
no,
what's
I figured
on
if you
your
can be
mind this
boring, I
morning?
can be boring too.
What's on your mind this morning?
Um, I worked myself into a real state the other night, um, and I'm mostly calmed down out of it, but still, it occurred to me that aside from the fact that our government just isn't working the way it's supposed to be, with Trump not having any pushback really from the higher levels of the courts or the Congress, is there really any way to stop him at this point?
Well,
I mean, even if we do, I mean, it's not as though even if we take the House, we can impeach him, right?
Well, you
Are we ever going to have that kind of vote?
there will, I don't think you can expect there could be the kind of vote in the Senate to convict on impeachment. But
Right.
having one house of Congress matters a lot for a number of reasons. The first is that it stops things like the big beautiful bill. Um, so the first reason you is that a lot of bad things don't happen. Um, Now that's kind of invisible because Congress not passing a major piece of legislation, it's not like there's a vote and it fails. There's never a process at all. But you have to imagine the opportunity costs to Trump of not having the House, and they're substantial.
I was never suggesting, just to be clear, I am not doing that. What's the point even to vote? I definitely see
No,
the
no,
point.
I understand.
Okay.
But that's where it starts, but it's not where it stops. So the second issue is oversight. Um, and the difference between a house that is ignoring everything that's happening and a house that is investigating everything that's happening is huge. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get remedial legislation passed on stuff, and it doesn't mean you can necessarily stop it from happening. But pointing a spotlight at something and drawing attention to it does inhibit behavior. And it also, as we saw in the Ukraine impeachment, it really does incentivize staff level people to speak out. And we learned a huge amount from that. That's the second thing. The third thing is um, uh, appropriations matters. And these are almost invisible to the public, but they're hugely, hugely important. If Democrats had controlled the House, what happened to USAID would not have happened. Um,
Oh,
well, for one thing, the rescissions package would never have passed.
okay.
But that's a small piece of the pie.
Because it's
This,
not clear to me that it would have made any difference to him or, what happened.
well, it wouldn't have made any difference to him, but it would have made a difference in terms of what goes on in the continuing resolutions that keep the government open. And, you know, you can put a lot of stuff in there that he doesn't want, like restrictions on, you know, how many ICE people you can hire, what they can do, are they allowed to wear masks, are they, blah, blah, blah. You can put all of that stuff in an appropriations bill. You can also not put in there, you can clarify that money intended for USAID uh, can't be spent by the State Department or must be spent by US. I mean, Congress can be as specific in its appropriations as it wants to be. And actually, there is some effort right now to make things more specific with respect to a bunch of different this is mostly going on in the Senate. Susan Collins, between expressions of concern, is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, and she's, quietly clarifying a bunch of things that makes it harder for the now whether any of that'll matter because we live in a world of continuing resolutions, and so how much of those bills will end up being law, I'm not sure. But the more pressure you have from the appropriations process, the better. And And the other thing you can do in the appropriations process is, you know, why should the House fund all this money that is that the big beautiful bill supposedly makes available for uh, tripling the size of ICE? What why and CBP? Why uh, why should that why should the House go along with that? And the answer is, well, to avoid a government shutdown. But right now, you have a House that's pushing toward greater extremity, right? And if you had a House in the context of a House Senate conference on budget that was pushing to zero out this $50 billion or whatever it is boondoggle on ice, you would compromise at somewhere in a much more reasonable posture, right? Um, you
Because,
might,
in my alarmist mode, I'm like, so, they can do all of this. So what? I mean, he's not going to pay any attention to it.
well, so,
And then what? Somebody sues, and then they go to court, and then goodness only knows what happens.
so first of all, there, you know, he is lawless,
Mm-hmm.
but he is not right now spending unappropriated money. Um, and you know,
No, he's not spending appropriated money.
well, so even that is complicated. He is spending appropriated money to the statutory minimum and then arguing aggressively about what the statutory minimum is. So, but look, the uh, the case that I'm really familiar with in this because it affects my family is the National Endowment of Democracy case, which he lost at the district court level, and he is not appealing that, and they are obligated the Ned's money, and and so I'm like, they are lawless people, but they are not unconstrained by law. And if you um and one of the things that we see when you look at uh when you look at this is that it matters who wins these litigations. It matters um, how good their arguments are in them. And that means it matters how these laws are written. And if it matters how these laws are written, it matters who's in Congress
Well, yeah,
writing them.
it's just, are they going to get past the Senate anyway?
Look, the House is one pole in the negotiation. It is um, it is not a poll that controls the outcome by itself. And nobody should think that if Democrats take the House, that the problem of Congress is solved. um, if Democrats take the House, they have negotiating room. And you're right that there's still the problem um, of will the president follow whatever uh, how much will he undermine whatever law they pass? But you work with what you've got, and it is way better to have a House of Congress that can do oversight, that has a say in the appropriations process, and that has the ability to say no and stop in its tracks the affirmative legislative agenda, such as it is, of um, the administration, than one that doesn't have those three things. And so it is quite correct to point out the limitations of this. I'm not arguing with you about that.
Yeah, I know it's important. I really do. It's not that I don't think it's important. I think it's crucial. I think if we don't, we're sunk, like completely. But I don't. sending, talking about and sending, troops into cities, Los Angeles, DC, he's not going to stop there, right?
That's right. Look, and there is nothing we can do about that
And
at
he's
the
turning the FBI into a national police force.
correct. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to pretend that all will be well. Um, you
Well,
know,
I'm not saying it's not worth it, but
we we
don't get
elected
me
an author
wrong.
we elected an authoritarian, and you reap what you sow. And hello, Kat.
This is Genji. Say hello,
Um,
Genji.
and look, I mean, we are now in the damage control mode, and a that is not where you want to be. But it's I don't think it is. Uh, I don't think it's useful to declare everything lost and therefore conclude that there's nothing we can do. And so I start with the assumption that we should do what we can. And that means a lot of things, starting with uh, not counseling despair. And so I want everybody to do the things they can and be realistic about the things they can't do, but not conclude from the things that they can't do that there is nothing useful that we can do.
I get that. I get that. I just, I when it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you're sitting there and your mind is running. I don't mean that I'm going to give up. I'm not talking about that. It just, I worry about the next several years. He's done so much in such a short period of time. But
Yes, look, there is no, it is not, I do not mean to understate
I
to
understand we
over
can
to
mitigate it,
understate
right?
the devastation or to argue that that things are fine. I merely mean to argue that they are trying to demoralize you, and and the one bulwark of protection that we really have is an energized citizenry. And so it is important not to let it work. Kate,
I understand.
who says in
I'm
the chat, and it's working. Here, as I'm trying to give everybody a pep talk and say, don't let it work, Kate is typing in the chat, and it's working. No, Kate, it's not working, and you should have an apostrophe in that it's.
I guess I just yeah, I know it can be mitigated. I'm not in any way suggesting that it shouldn't be. Oh, and an interesting thing that I'll just make a plug. Andy Borowitz, his Substack thing, um, has some good suggestions yesterday about how to figure out when you give money, what are going to be the most effective places for you to give money to. So there are things like, pay attention to which seats are actually winnable,
Yes, so this is really, really important.
and be careful
Every
about PACs.
every 2 years, well, the PACs are a disaster. The If any PAC texts you asking for money, do not give money to uh, call PACs. Just do not do it. Um, and those of you above a certain age, you are the targets of those PACs. They are designed to separate um, older people from their money. They are not real. They are not actually doing good work. Just don't do it.
I
Anybody
did
who
a federal
texts you,
grand jury at one point, and at the beginning of each thing, they open a lot of cases so that they can still issue subpoenas. And it was surprising how many of the potential fraud cases were some kind of PAC.
right? PACs, these are. there are some good PACs. There are PACs that do good work. There is no reason for you guys to be giving your money to PACs. Let them fund themselves with uh, rich people. Um, uh, if you want to give money to committees, uh, the party committees are legit, however efficient they may or may not be. Um, and um, and there are good online guides as to which are the seats that are genuinely in play. Every couple years, we have these situations like Amy McGrath in Kentucky. Somebody says, I'm going to run against blah, 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 and, you know, raises an enormous amount of money to compete in a seat that is frankly not competitive.
Yeah, I said don't
And
send money to Marjorie Taylor Greene's opponents.
exactly, you're going to see that with Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're going to see it with, it always happens when Mitch McConnell is running. It's not like that is a waste of your money. Don't do it. The right way to do it is to identify, and the Cook Political Report is always good at identifying where the at play seats are. Invest in seats that are actually um uh in play. And also, this one I feel strongly about. Invest in people that you think are would be good. Um, we think of this as a giant map and chessboard, and it is, but there's also a lot of human stuff going on in it. And, you know, um, uh, some people you say, oh, I know that person, he or she is good. I would like to see that person in Congress. Those are good investments for you. Even and think about it as yes, it's a chessboard, but it's also a human endeavor. But don't get swept away with, oh, we have a chance to knock off, I don't know, some person who you hate in a safe seat. I'm running against Ron Johnson. Oh, Ron Johnson actually is a fairly vulnerable. Mike Johnson. Like it's not going to happen. The seats are not organized that way. Um,
I also wanted to ask about what states can do, right? I mean, at least we've got some governors starting to speak up fairly forcefully between Newsom and Pritzker. How much, and I know that it's states have more power than we tend to think, right? And can resist in ways that people tend to often forget. So, I mean, what can they do? How can they also help? Because I think that sometimes I think that we are so scattered all over the place that getting a big demonstration together, against the federal government is a lot harder than getting small demonstrations in front of state houses. And I think that it's worth doing that in blue states to encourage them to do whatever they can do. So trying also to think of things that can help.
yeah. So um, states are powerful organs. Um, and um, and there is a lot that states can do. Let's start with what they can't do. Alice, I'm getting a little bit of noise from your side, so I'm going to mute you uh, until we're ready to have you talk. Okay? Let's start with things that states can't do. If the federal government says it's doing X and X is within its lawful power to do, no state can prevent it from doing X. And that includes, you know, arrests, it includes prosecutions, it includes civil enforcements of one sort or another, including importantly deportations, right? So there is a supremacy clause that says you can't, like, if the federal government is lawfully allowed to do something, federal law is supreme over state law. That said,
I
states.
mean, if he sends out that stupid executive order about banning mail-in ballots, right? Blue states can go, massively, send everybody a mail-in ballot.
Correct. So, first of all, states do not have to cooperate with X. X is the fact that the federal government is lawfully entitled to do something doesn't mean that state policy has to encourage it or cooperate with it. And there are a line of cases involving what's called commandeering that, whoa,
Sorry
not
about
sure.
that.
Um,
I'm
there
I'm
are
close to the T.
there are a line of cases involving what is called commandeering, which is when you sort of dragoon state officials into enforcing federal law that says there are limits to how much of that you can do. So this is why things like sanctuary cities enrage Trump so much. And because actually states do have the sovereign authority to say, okay, we understand that your immigration policy is the following, but our policy is that we're not cooperating with federal law enforcement on that. Um, so that's thing number one is non-cooperation. Thing number two is what the Russians might call active measures in support of non-cooperation. So a group of Texas Democratic members don't want to participate in the redistricting and want to deny quorum. And the state of Illinois provides them sanctuary and promises not to collaborate with Texas law enforcement and, for that matter, federal law enforcement availability to drag them back. There are a lot of things that fall into that category, including a lot of reproductive rights issues, right? Sort of creating laws that um, make it possible for people to practice medicine remotely, including into states where things are not necessarily legal, including not extraditing people to states where their conduct may be prosecutable, right? And so that's an area where it's less about the federal government, honestly, than it's about conflicts between state laws, but it's very important stuff. Um, a third area, and this is the significance of Gavin Newsom's uh, um, uh, redistricting stuff, is using state law to push back, right? Like California can't stop Texas from doing a terrible mid-cycle redistricting, but it can retaliate in a way that disincentivizes um, bad state law, right, from having a big effect. And then a final area is affirmative state law, and this is, by the way, I think some of the it's some of the most unexplored areas, and I don't know how effective it would be. But if you look at these crypto frauds that are going on, I don't believe that some of them don't violate state securities law, state bribery law, state gratuities law. And, you would, and by the way, laws can be rewritten to cover some of that stuff. It obviously can't cover the president because of the new doctrine of presidential immunity, but it can cover, the Trump organization, the Trump family members, the people who are giving these gratuities. And I would be very interested to see somebody do a study of state laws that could be brought to bear either in the criminal or civil departments. Civil, in some ways, is uh, uh, more useful under less exploited. But I would be very interested in that. So, I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. Alice has been waiting very patiently. I am unmuting her, and I think this is your first time actually on screen, Alice.
Um, I was a regular member of In Lieu of Fun for a long time during the pandemic, and then in the meantime, I'm originally from Australia, so I moved back here, so it's nighttime, to be closer to family. But I was going to say for Carol, two things that helped me is I really like the States Project, and they'll be focused on winning key House seats, state House and state legislature races in Virginia this year. And then I'm sure they'll be doing a lot of key things for state races next year. And the smaller the race, and they still use statistics and stuff, but the smaller the race, the bigger your work can have an impact. And then another thing is I'm part of Markers for Democracy. And which is based in New York, but is online over the world. And finding a group of people doing stuff together also really helps with your anxiety because at least you know you're doing something. If you're trying to go to sleep at night, that's really hard. I know at least overseas, because I feel really guilty. At least I'm like, oh, but I'm making my recurring donations every month to orgs that I know are making a difference, and I'm going to be doing postcards and things like that overseas. But finding an organization will help. So yeah. Well, so.
Yeah, so I agree with that very much. I think the being being actively involved makes a huge difference. And um being there is nothing like sitting at home and doom scrolling to make you feel helpless. So we have this little protest that's uh going on in DC every evening at 8 o'clock in the evening. It's 5 minutes. Everybody goes outside and they bang on pots and pans or drums, or I use an air horn, and makes a lot of noise for 5 minutes, and then it uh, dissipates. And people are doing it all over the city. And it is really, at one level, useless because I don't think Donald Trump cares about a bunch of DC people banning banging on pots and pans. But I also think that everybody who does it, and by the way, when we do it as a group, we go out to a local music store and they provide drums and tambourines and stuff. And, it's probably 15 people a day make some noise on Wisconsin Avenue. And everybody who does it feels good about it. And that's important. Um, because, and people drive by and they honk. The community is very supportive of it. It's a it is not, um and actually maintaining people's morale when you're dealing with a city. Like, I literally spent yesterday going around DC photographing National Guard stationed in DC. That is uh, demoralizing, and um, I mean, it's just, you know, it's an obnoxious thing to have lots of bored National Guardsmen standing around with, M16s in your hometown for no reason. And the act of going out and yelling about it and making noise is important to day-to-day human morale. And by the way, um, what are we gonna do with that energy in the long run? I don't know. I really don't. Um, and if you look at the Israeli protests, which failed to bring down the government before October 7th, and then went dormant for a long period of time, and have recently, ramped way, way up again over a different set of issues. Um, Sometimes the answer is you generate the energy and then you store it up for a different time, and it comes back in a different form that is useful then. Um, I don't think you always know why you're doing what you're doing, or what the foundations like to call the theory of change is. I don't know what the theory of change is. It's important for people to see people doing things. Um, Activity begets activity, um, and um, and uh, it's important for people to see that folks are doing things and to feel that they should be doing things too, or could be doing things too. I can't tell you how many times people have written to me and, said, I saw your projection protest and I went and did this. And sometimes those things are really, really cool. And so I'm not sure, honestly, what the mechanisms are. Um, I'm uh, I'm not sure what the effect is. Are we, or what the connective tissue is between protests, uh, political speech, elections that are still a ways off, inhibiting bad action, court actions. Honestly, not sure. Here's what I'm sure of. Number one, I'm totally out of fucks to give, and I'm not going to hurt anybody, um, and I'm not going to um, I'm not going to do anything that I think is socially inappropriate, but I'm also not going to be too scrupulous about the technicalities of law in expressing myself. And no, I'm not going to throw sandwiches at anybody. Although I do applaud the grand jury that said, you mean you're charging that as a felony? Are you frickin' kidding me? Um, I'm not, but I'm not also going to ask too many questions about whether chalk on the sidewalk does or does not violate X ordinance. And if you want to charge me with a misdemeanor, come at me. And I'm not urging everybody to take that position. I am saying good men cannot obey the law too well. And I am trying to be loud, and I am trying not to think about the mechanisms of the mechanisms by which that translates into anything other than being visible as a relatively public person not behaving very well. Carol is back. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm back. I just want to make sure that, I mean, it is never a good idea to give up, right? Resistance is not futile. It can take a long time, and I know that, right? I was wondering, what kinds of mechanisms there, I mean, when I called up before, I was wondering what kind of mechanisms there were. And, in the calm light of day, it's as much a matter of putting my energies, limited though they are, where they are going to make any kind of a difference. Um, I also wanted to say something on behalf of all grand juries that have been smeared with the ham sandwich line. I served on two. I served one in Superior Court, DC, which is the local criminal laws, and I served in a federal grand jury. And obviously, I can't say very much about them, but let me tell you, a ham sandwich would have gotten past none of these people. They were tough and they needed to be convinced, and they were not about to give a lot of deference to anybody, including the police.
All right,
They
so let me
they got
say a
that
few
too.
words about grand juries. And for those who are interested in grand juries, we are going to have a detailed conversation about activity in grand juries uh, on Lawfare Live tomorrow at 4 p.m. One of um, we've had people tracking grand jury activity, and we're gonna talk about some of that. But I want to, you know, there has been a long debate about, you see it in the FISA context, and you see it in the grand jury context. Um, and the debate runs as follows: the success rate of prosecutors in front of these entities is near 100%. And the critics of these entities, say that is because these entities are rubber stamps. In the case of the FISA court, the expression is always rubber stamp. In the case of grand juries, same point. It is always, the metaphor is always the ham sandwich, which comes from Saul Walkler, the former New York Court of Appeals judge. And I've never figured out why the sandwich is always ham, why it's never an egg salad sandwich or a cheese sandwich, always a ham sandwich. But the point is the same, which is that these are fake checks and they will do anything the government asks them to do. Um, and
My
then,
experience was that it was that the prosecutors were choosing very carefully and really only presenting the cases where they had, where they really had the goods.
well, so that is the counter argument, right? And the
Because there were indictments that did not get past mine.
and so these are and so you very rarely get a test of this because the because in fact prosecutorial practice is relatively uniform over time. Most prosecutors are not interested. If you don't, if the case is marginal before a grand jury, you're not going to prevail before a petit jury in court. So, actually, and the standard for indictment is, by the way, quite low. It's probable cause, which is the same standard as, say, a search warrant. And it's a completely different standard, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, from the one you use when you actually have to try a case. And so the um, you know the answer in the context both of the FISC and the grand jury from feds has always been, no, it's simple. We're careful. We're not bringing cases that we're not going to prevail. And in my adult lifetime, we've never really had a test of this until now. And what we see now, and there was a glimmer of this in the first Trump administration when a DC grand jury refused to give a return an indictment against Andy McCabe, the former FBI deputy director. And that was a shocking moment. So since then, um, in this environment, it has happened multiple times in Los Angeles and a bunch of times now in DC too, including with Sandwich Thrower Guy. And this is, you know, first of all, I think a vindication of the institution of the grand jury. That, what it shows is that, at least to a point, the Fed side, sorry, you're muted,
Made
Carol.
me more convinced of the, of the point. Um, and it's also useful that sometimes it's a very close vote,
Yeah,
and
so
that's useful for them to know too.
so this is a it's first of all, it's a big change in federal practice. If you've gone from an environment in which you're getting grand jury um, grand juries are returning indictments 100% of the time to grand juries are not returning uh, indictments 100% of the time, and they're rejecting a fair number of cases. That is a big change. Um, Number two, that change is more important than the number of indictments you're getting in any given case. And the reason for that is that the judges and magistrates who supervise grand juries are very aware of this, and this really erodes trust and confidence in the office of the U.S. Attorney on the part of the judges in which they have to practice. And that has implications well beyond the specific cases. So we're going to curtail
I'm
this
thinking I'm
conversation
going away.
because
Nastia,
not
nice to see you.
good to see you, Carol. We are going to we are joined at this point by Nastia, who is in the neighborhood of the remains of the neighborhood that she lived in until a few days ago.
A
So
few weeks ago.
few weeks ago. So, Nastya, give us a sense of what happened. And I have all those pictures you sent me. Should I tee them up, or are you going to use your phone to?
I'm trying to figure out how to flip my camera here, but I don't understand why I can't do it.
You could also just turn it around.
What do you guys see anything? Okay. So anyway, yes, there was a mass attack on Kyiv last night. A bunch of missiles, a bunch of drones, the usual thing. Can you hear me okay? Because there's a lot of
Yeah, we
like
got you.
clearing up the rubble that's going on. And so the street that's like parallel to the one that I used to live on until like we moved like a month ago, 3 weeks ago. That street was like heavily hit. So, are you seeing anything here?
Um, yeah, we've got a good view.
Let me come closer. This is the place where I would go to have breakfast.
Yeah,
Not serving breakfast anymore, at least for some time. Um, this building behind me is just like completely,
and is
you know,
that a business? Is that an office building?
it's a business center. Yes, this building as well. So essentially, like this street is like very badly damaged.
And
Um,
where was the impact? Where was the explosion?
so the direct missile hit was like right there, where my thumb is.
I
Two
see.
two missiles hit that building right there.
And do we know what that building is?
Do we know what?
What that building is?
Well, it's a bank. That's like what, publicly is known. But I doubt that they would just like put in random coordinates. So, because if it was one missile, you could have said that it has gone rogue, which happens all the time. But if it's two, is it possible the two of them? Because the police said that the two hit like right at the first floor of that building. And do you want to start walking? And so, like, what are the chances that these two missiles went rogue and hit the exact same place? So it could have been possible that they were aiming for something specific there, and there is some sort of secret site that we don't know about, which is very possible. In Kyiv or like in other cities, you never know what various buildings are and whether they're used for military purposes. So yeah, but it's just crazy because our lease is until Saturday, so we still have time to pick up our stuff. And we came here today to like start clearing it up for like the new tenants. One of our windows is destroyed, like half of it. All the other windows and the balcony door were blown open. Like the glass is there, but they were opened by the impact wave. And a bunch of stuff has fallen off the shelves and stuff, which is really not that bad considering like what our neighbors have. But yeah, it's just crazy. It was a very loud night. My kid and I slept in the bathtub. My husband slept on the mattress on the floor near us. None of us really got any sleep. It was very loud, but yeah, it's surreal because this is the closest it has ever hit to home, I guess. Like, I mean,
And
apart from, go
how
ahead, yeah.
far is your new apartment from the old
From
one?
this,
Yeah.
I mean, it's 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers. My husband somehow knows this random fact that it's 5 kilometers away.
Okay, so
Something that men know. But yeah, I mean, it's like a 10-15 minute drive.
and was anybody hurt in this strike, or
Well,
was
there
this
is this particular one, I don't know, but there were other direct missile hits around Kyiv. This is just one place. There were a bunch of other places and buildings that were hit by drones and missiles. The death toll as of now is 18 people, including, I think, at least 3 or 4 children.
18 in Kyiv or
18 in Kyiv, yes. The attack
wow.
targeted mainly Kyiv. Yeah, you can see there's like a bunch of glass, just like people clearing up the rubble. And so, yeah, the attack, I think, only targeted Kyiv, right? Mainly Kyiv. And so the death toll is 18 in Kyiv, but they're still clearing the rubble up, so the death toll will likely increase. Which is crazy. It's a really big number. This is not like a usual thing that happens.
Yeah, I mean that's high.
Yeah.
Do you understand this as an air defense failure or a Russian they got lucky? When
Do you have thoughts? I'm asking my husband.
We don't have a lot of systems that could intercept missiles like Kinjal, and
We
the two
don't.
of them.
Can you hear what he's saying, or should I repeat what he just said?
you should repeat it. I
Okay.
can hear it, but I'm not sure others can.
We don't have a lot of systems that can intercept Kinjals. So like we only intercepted one from the official reports last night.
Hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, but some of the ballistics are hard to intercept.
Ballistics, hypersonic.
Hypersonic missiles. Sorry. Anyway, they're attacking every night. They're attacking us with a bunch of different missiles. Some of them are easier to intercept. Like cruise missiles are pretty easy to intercept. Ballistics as well. That's what the Patriot does. But some of them are like really hard to intercept. So Kinjal is one of them.
Right.
I think Kinjal is like the toughest one.
And
They have
how do
less
you
than-
understand do you understand this as Putin took a break while he was getting ready to meet with Trump and
Now we're
left
back
his
to our usual programming.
back to usual programming, or is there some other either cruder or more sophisticated explanation?
No, I think it's just that he took like a little pause during the peace negotiations, and now he's back to what he always does. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's more than that, to be honest.
I think that's almost certainly right, and I unfortunately think that that's designed to impress Trump and largely has the effect of doing so.
Well, we'll see what his reaction is today.
What do you think?
I
How
have to
has
go, so let's make this the last question, unfortunately.
how do you? What has the reaction in Kyiv been today?
We walked by like a fancy beauty salon that's on that street. I was standing right near it. All the windows are gone, but the ladies are getting their hair done inside, which is just the most Ukrainian scene I have ever seen. There's like smashed things, like destroyed, and the ladies
Did you
are
get a
in there.
picture of that?
What?
Did you get a picture of that?
Of course. What? Why are you doubting me like that, Ben? I got a video. I got several pictures. I have all the content. Uh,
Excellent. Well, that's the picture for your
I
Substack.
know. It's like nothing will keep Ukrainian ladies from their hair appointments. If you got it, you got it. Like, so but it's the reaction is like that. I mean, this isn't unprecedented. These things happen, and every time it happens, everyone is just like, peace my ass. This is what the peace negotiations are worth in
You
reality.
know, there's that line, that famous line in Herodotus: neither snow nor sleet nor Russian missiles will keep Ukrainian ladies from their hair appointments. Um,
Literally.
um,
Anyway,
all right, we will
that's
let you
that.
go.
Thank you.
Love to Eric. Welcome back, Eric. And um,
We'll keep in touch.
yeah, glad you guys are
Bye,
safe.
guys.
Give the
We're as
baby a
safe
kiss
as we
for
can
me.
be. Yes, in the bathtub, pretty safe. Anyway,
All
bye.
right, folks, we have where else on a Thursday morning can you get a live update from a Russian missile strike, a conversation about what you can do and why you should not despair, and how you can get involved and why it matters. And yes, the slogan of the U.S. Postal Service is from Herodotus, and it is about, as if memory serves, couriers that the Persians were using, and if and that is where it comes from. And I modified it only a little to refer to Ukrainian women and their hair appointments. Um, so, folks, we're going to be back tomorrow. I have even less idea of what tomorrow's show is going to be like than I do about today's. Um, uh, than I did about today's, but that's okay because look how well today's worked out. Tomorrow's will be equally good. Um, and yeah, we're going to be back. I don't know who the hosts are going to be. I don't know who the guests are going to be. I don't know what the Russians are going to have done between now and then, but I'll be there and you'll be there and a dog shirt will be there. And, it's going to be great.